We've just had the biggest dump in crypto history, with billions of dollars being lost by crypto traders everywhere. And right now, XRP is back up 37%. Cardano is back up 41%. Sui back up 34%. ICP 25%. Casper 32%. Are we about to see a massive altcoin recovery, or are things about to get much worse before they can get better? In this video, I'm going to answer those questions for you. I'm going to show you this chart and tell you exactly what happened after the last 5 major liquidation events that we've seen in crypto over the last few years. I'm going to talk about this Ethereum volatility index and why it's so incredibly important right now, despite the fact that no one's talking about it. And I'm going to show you this chart, which is showing exactly what the big investors and smart money are doing right now. So if you're feeling panicked and worried and you don't know which way to turn, you're in the right place. So hit the like button and let's go calm things down. Now guys, before we jump into those charts and we get all logical, I just want to spare this moment to tell you something. I obviously wasn't expecting to see that news event get dropped over the weekend, and I wasn't expecting the markets to react quite how they did. I myself have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in just the last 24 hours alone, and I get how you're feeling. I'm pretty anxious, I'm pretty stressed, and I'm pretty upset about what has happened, but fortunately, I've been through this before, and I understand there is only one logical approach to take here, and it leads to a much brighter future than perhaps you're feeling right now. Unfortunately, days like this are part and parcel of being part of crypto markets. We're in these markets to try and make lots of money, but there's a price we have to pay for being in such volatile assets, and that is that we see significant ups as well as sometimes significant downs. So if you're feeling stressed and worried, don't worry. If you've managed to hold on over the last 24 hours or so and you haven't made any impulse decisions, then guess what? You've probably come through the worst of it and things are likely to get much brighter much sooner than you think. Also, the lessons that you've learned over this last few weeks are going to be absolutely valuable for you, and they're actually going to mean that you can leave this bull market making some good returns where many who join after you are unlikely to. So feeling sorry for ourselves is over because it's not going to make us any money. It's time to get on and see what we can do about it. So where are we at right now? Well, we've just seen Donald Trump releasing some news on tariffs, and this has caused a massive meltdown across crypto markets. Not just crypto markets, but the stock market and various others. And what many people are anticipating right now is that when the US stock market opens, a lot of the futures trades are going to be liquidated, and that's going to drag the prices down even further. I'm making this video right now. The US stock market is about to open in the next couple of hours, so we will see what happens should the market get dragged down further. But I will tell you this: when the market reacts to news that it wasn't expecting, the results are always massive. Okay, anything that is coming out of the blue that no one's anticipating always are very painful. However, when the market is already anticipating a news event to happen, it usually doesn't have that much of an effect. So if you're thinking right now, what if when this happens, if everybody already knows that thing is about to happen, then don't feel too much worry about it. This is where this comes in. Volatility is something that happens when everyone is panicking. Think about it when you throw a rock into a pond, the waves go crazy to start with, and then things start to calm down. So the biggest spike in volatility is always when that rock first hits the pond. The news is the rock hitting the pond. The pond is the audience reacting to it. This chart here shows you the volatility in Ethereum. Okay, now you can see 4 red circles on here. At the top, we've got the Ethereum price. This was the 5th of August back last year, and this is today. You can see I've marked these 2 points because on the bottom we had the biggest spikes towards the upside in the Ethereum volatility. Now, while Bitcoin saw a bit of a dip, nothing too crazy really, only dipping to around $92,000, which is actually higher than it dipped to just a couple of weeks ago, Ethereum and the altcoins got absolutely devastated towards the downside. And since you're subscribed to this channel, I know many of you are not holding Bitcoin, you're all holding volatile assets, because obviously you're degenerates and you want the biggest gains possible, which means obviously we have to endure the biggest losses at some point, which we didn't really want to, but you get the picture. This is incredibly important to us. So why did this dip happen like this? Well, as you know, the news has shocked everyone. So what happens during this period of time? The exchanges use the opportunity to flush Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, big altcoins back onto the exchanges. What does this cause? It causes a capitulation event. It causes everyone who is over leveraged to get liquidated. So why do the exchanges do this? Well, because we are anticipating moves up towards the upside in a bull market. They need to flush out people who are over leveraged right now. Why? Because if you are over leveraged and you actually go up and you make money, you are taking money away from the exchange. The exchange loses money in that trade. So it wants to shake you out, takes your money, and then it can move up on its way. Because obviously people are buying on spot trading. It means that they can't take your money away from you unless you sell. Typically what happens, the price dips down because the exchanges are using that news smoke screen to pump crypto back onto the exchange. It causes liquidations to happen. The liquidations cause more selling off. This causes more liquidations. You get the picture. And then eventually everyone starts to capitulate, starts to panic sell. Prices come down even harder. The altcoins see the most volatility because they have the smaller market cap. And not only that, the smaller market cap coins are not propped up by smart money. They tend to be propped up by retail investors. And we retail investors are the ones who often are the ones who are caught panic selling. And this is what you can see happening here. This is Bitcoin, retail and large investor holdings. Notice this, retail is the purple line, and this kind of like red crimson color line here is the large investor. These represent the smart money. They're large investors because they've got lots of money, because they know what they're doing. Then you've got the white line being the Bitcoin price. Notice something important. Back in like May, June of last year, when Bitcoin was seeing another rally towards the upside, the smart money was selling off aggressively into this summer period. Meanwhile, the retail investors were continuing to buy more into these highs. Then, as you can see, retail sells off, isn't really picking up anymore, and then the smart money starts to pick up even more. And right now, the retail investors have just been selling off and continuing to sell off more and more aggressively at the same time. The amount of money being held by the large investors is increasing. They are starting to accumulate more and more. And every time that price dips down, smart money, big money, is buying the dip. You've probably heard this term. You probably started to lose faith in that buy the dip mentality because we have had a lot of dips. And I have been telling you to buy the dip over a long period of time. And I don't regret telling you that. Well, because guys, just using ICP as an example, okay, a coin that is quite popular with a lot of you. So I know many of you would have been buying this coin on the dip. Unfortunately, a lot of you might have got into crypto somewhere around this period of time here. Why? Because everybody gets into crypto for the first time when the markets are pumping. Why? Because it's when it's exciting. It's when Bitcoin's hitting the news. It's when your friends are talking about the money they've been making. It's when you want to get into the game. It's by the nature of this that you always ended up at the highs. So if you bought in up here on ICP, for example, 14 bucks, and this is the same for every crypto, and you bought down here, you bought the dip, you bring your average buy price to like here. And if you bought down here and you bought the dip, then your average buy price is now somewhere around here. And I get it. Maybe you wanted to buy this dip, but you just couldn't buy it because there's no money left. I get it, okay? I don't have as much money to be buying into this dip as I would love to have. But so what, okay? This is obviously the best buying opportunity that you will have found recently, and probably the last big buying opportunity that you will have. But buying the dip, even if it means that you are still down, is still the best thing you could possibly do. Because when this turns around, and it will turn around at some point, you will be back in profits when the price of ICP hits, let's say here at $11, rather than when it hits $15. So if you're completely worried that you've just been continuing to buy the dips and the dips keep coming, you were doing it exactly right. You can never know exactly when the market bottoms. You can never know exactly when the market tops. The lesson you should learn here is, yes, keep buying if you can when it's low, but also when it's getting towards the top, don't try and sell the absolute top. If you are up significantly, then start to take money off as ICP or Casper or whatever that coin is goes higher and higher, because things will always seem like they're going to get better and better as that bull market goes on. But unfortunately, the chances you have of it getting better and better are getting slimmer by the minute. On the same side of things, the more the crypto price of any coin comes down, guess what? The more big money is buying, because they know exactly what is about to follow. In a bull market, the smart money buys up high. In a bear market, or at a period of time when we're likely to start seeing dips or a final sell-off, the large money will sell off. Okay, large money sells off at the top. Retail continues to invest. Retail doesn't sell off at the top of bull markets. We haven't seen the top of a bull market, whatever you might be told, whatever you might think, because of this simple fact. Retail never outsmart large investors. We just have to think like the large investors and not emotionally. So how do I know that crypto is going to recover from here? Well, I don't know what's going to happen later when the US stock market opens. I don't know what Donald Trump's going to do in the US. I'm not the president. I'm not friends with the president of the US. What he's been doing so far has come pretty much out of nowhere. He seems to be wanting to put pressure on Jerome Powell and the Fed, who's pretty much the only person that Donald Trump doesn't really have direct access to control. So what does he do? He creates an environment where we see an incredibly strong dollar. And as you can see, the dollar is rallying here. Why does he want to do this? Well, he wants to start cutting down on interest rates, starting to increase inflation again, because it allows him to build a much faster paced economy. But this is what the Fed has been holding off on. You saw the other day that Jerome Powell refused to drop interest rates, which really clearly pissed off Donald Trump, and which is why Donald Trump has gone and done this radical move this weekend that, as crypto investors, has pretty much stung us. But longer term, Donald Trump is doing these things to try and stimulate his economy and try and have his economy growing as fast as possible. And guess what? If we get interest rate cuts and quantitative easing sooner rather than we think, then we're going to end up with the most aggressive bull market. This is going to be a big bull market, and this might be a painful dip that we've just endured, but it is a good one. It buys us more time to be able to continue investing. And if you believe that the cryptos that you hold right now are going to be worth much more in the future than they are right now, then you're in the right place. And guess what? If you've been buying the dip, then you should be happy that those coins have been pulling back, even though you're probably not. So what does this chart show us, and why is it so important for us? Well, in the short term, directly after a major event like has just happened, then typically within 10 days, Bitcoin reacts quite positively, but not every time. The top, you got the US-Iran escalation back in 2020. You saw Bitcoin going up 12% after that kind of scary event that knocked the crypto markets as well as the conventional markets down. We then had the COVID outbreak, which saw Bitcoin go down 25%. But COVID-19 was a significantly bigger event, I think you'll agree, than what we've just seen Donald Trump do, where Donald Trump might just be trying to strong arm them into doing something, and actually maybe by the end of the day everyone turns around and says, actually we weren't going to do it, and everything goes back to normal, which in the back of my mind I'm still kind of betting on. You then come down, we've got US election challenges, basically questioning the vote and stuff like that. We saw Bitcoin back up 19% after this. Russia invaded Ukraine, down 6%. US regional banking crisis up 25%. So the shorter term returns in general fairly positive, not necessarily in 2022, but that was also a bear market year, so that's also to be considered. The yen carry trade, it doesn't mark it here, but actually after the yen carry trade, Bitcoin bounced up significantly, and that was the 5th of August that I showed you back here. Since that point, Ethereum did a 2x back up by the end of sort of October, November time, only to then sort of pull back to similar levels. But Ethereum did a 2x during that period of time, and some altcoins like Sui did a 10x from this period of time. So I know many people, when they're trading crypto who got in recently, were like, oh, I wish I could have got in. Wouldn't it have been great to get into Sui back in around August or the 5th of August? How lucky those people were. Well, today is a day a bit like that. Okay, Sui, at that time, when we had the yen carry trade shakeout, Sui went up 11x after that period of time. Okay, so most people were scared and panic selling around this period of time because Sui took a big dump down here. And you can see since that high down to that low, Sui went down 78%. So if some of your altcoins right now are down 70, 80%, some of mine are, then there is potentially a bit of a silver lining to this. If you were able to buy the dip rather than just buying here, you could be buying down here. Then you get to enjoy the excitement that follows. But while the 10 days is not so accurate, I want you to jump across and look at the 60-day return. 60 days is 2 months. It's a longer period of time. And I know tomorrow we wanted to be back up at all-time highs. Maybe that doesn't happen. But after 60 days of return, we see every single time Bitcoin recovered. 20%, 21%, 131%, 15%, 32% yen carry trade, 3%. Yen carry trade, I think, went up more than 3% since the 5th of August. 60 days after the 5th of August was sometime into October. I think Bitcoin was up like 35%. Maybe if it was the end of October, maybe you could even say it was up 44%. So this to me is indicative of these major shakeouts, scare events in markets. They are simply there for you to be able to buy. Big scary events like this don't happen at the top of bull markets. Big scary events like this typically happen from the bottom of bear markets or towards the bottom of bear markets and through bull markets. There will always be scary things happening in bull markets. Also, because of the very nature of bull markets where everyone's getting too bullish too quickly, everyone goes long, everyone over leverages, and eventually when something pulls back, everyone gets shaken out. They think it's the worst thing ever, and typically it can feel like that. I appreciate where you're coming from, but things are absolutely fine. What happens tomorrow? I don't know. What happens the next day? I'm not really sure. But these volatility events only come out every once in 6 months, maybe even less. Okay? And these volatility events inevitably lead to some of the best buying opportunities that you're going to get. Now, I appreciate many people feeling very sad, very worried right now. and if you have already sold up and got out the market, then I urge you to do one of two different things. Either you've got to watch this market like a hawk, and if you start to see any kind of candles coming back on the chart like this from Bitcoin or whatever else, then you kind of need to be getting back in my opinion, obviously not financial advice, or you need to just say, I'm done with crypto and walk away for good. Because if you come back in a few weeks, when Bitcoin or whatever has rallied all the way up here, like it typically does after every big shakeout, and you try and go and buy again at those tops, then you are going to get double wrecked. Okay, you might get wrecked from the period of time that we've been in right now because you were buying up into this in the altcoins. But if you go and do that 2 times over, then you will get absolutely destroyed. Okay, so choose your path here. My personal path is to hold, try and buy more if I can, and not be too stressed about what's going on. Now, guys, if we look across to this chart here, we can understand if things are to get a little bit worse for Bitcoin and crypto, then I would suggest that there is a bounce point somewhere in here for Bitcoin at around 87k. What I would personally do is I would mark an alert here, and if Bitcoin gets down into this zone, it might give me the final buying opportunity if I wanted to, okay? But ultimately, right now, you've genuinely seen the worst of the capitulation, in my opinion. Okay, when you throw that rock in the pond, the biggest waves that you see are always the first waves. We have seen the first wave reaction to that rock that Donald Trump dropped in the pond just like 12 hours ago or so. I would suggest from here that the ripples tend to start to calm down. Also, if you suddenly now gained the confidence to buy into this dip rather than panic selling this dip, then I highly recommend that you do it on one of 2 exchanges. This here is Bitunix, which does not require KYC, which means that you can sign up for this exchange without having to register all of your details, which is pretty useful. It also has some of the lowest fees across crypto, and it's an exchange that I use personally every single day. I'm also using WEEX, which again does not require KYC, has over 650 different altcoins. So if you're trying to find smaller cap altcoins that are going to see the best upside in this bull market, then you need to use an exchange like these rather than using Coinbase or Binance, which only tend to list larger market cap coins. So guys, hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better. I will continue to update you as this week goes on. If you want to be kept up to date as things are happening, because sometimes it takes me more time to get videos out, then make sure you're giving me a follow over on Twitter, houseofcrypto3. Make sure it's got the blue check mark here. Everyone else is not actually me and a scammer. Don't go and lose more money to scammers. That would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? Anyway, guys, hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Despite all that's happened, hit the like button, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.